You are listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Wednesday evening, folks. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to my program, the Intrepid radio program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. For those of you who aren't there already listening to the show, you can go over and check out everything that is Odyssey Radio. You can also catch this broadcast in simulcast over on my video YouTube channel. And that is youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. Now, I want to remind you, because I don't do this every day, what do I bring to the table? Well, I have had probably more post-education that is non-degreed than most people have of degreed education. I've got a high school diploma. I went to Bible college for 3 years. I dropped out. I was picked up by a seminary that was going to tutor me in the balance of my bachelor's degree while I earned my bachelor's degree, my MDiv. I went there for 2 years, dropped out, went into advertising. So I basically have a high school diploma that I'm coming to you with 5 years of post-high school education that is not lettered or degreed in any way, shape, or form. I've spent since then almost 40 years in research and study in various degrees. I have been a youth director, a youth pastor. I have never been up to pastoral status, but I was in ministry for years alongside my advertising career, and then I just drifted away for certain reasons, which we've covered many times over the last months on this show, and have ended up where I am now, a pretty much committed agnostic, questioning many different things. But along the way, one of the things that I was able to do in my lay ministry days, as being a non-hired, non-credentialed minister, working post-youth group days, I got to work with some men's groups, small groups, in one of the churches I was in. And in that, I dealt with a lot of guys who were in troubled marriages, troubled relationships, and trying to get ourselves through that. If you remember the Promise Keepers group that came out in the, the 90s, the early 90s, and the early to mid-90s, I was part of that group, not officially, but with the men in my group that would attend those conferences. This is what, if you don't remember what those are, Promise Keepers was a men's conference that they held in different places around the country, usually filling football stadiums. You'd have 70,000 men in attendance to these things, and the whole theme of all of these was, how do I be a better man? How do I be a better husband? How do I be a better father? So those were some of those things that I was part of during those times throughout the years. And so that's some of what I bring to the table when I talk about what the title of tonight's show is, when it's talking about relationships, talking about raising kids, all of that. I am by far no expert in any of this stuff. And as we used to say in seminary, and as Rocky and I do mockingly, I ground myself. That's the ground symbol. I'm grounded from the lightning bolts from the heavens that will take me out for claiming to know anything about nothing. So that's my starting point. But I will tell you this, I've been married. I'm on my third marriage. What the hell do I know about marriage, about making marriage work? I was married for 6 years, back from 1982 to 88, the years I was in seminary, the years I was in youth ministry. We were divorced, no kids. Didn't see her again or even hear from her for 19 years. It was just abrupt. I want out. Boom. Then I was married again a couple of years later to the woman that was the mother of my first 3 children. My 28-year-old twins, my 19-year-old boy. And then we were divorced almost 20 years ago. 19 years ago, to be sure. For sure, almost 20. And now I was married to Rainey 12 years ago, And we have got our 3 kids, 10, 8, and 7. 5. So that is kind of the course my life has taken. So one constant throughout my life has been children, being a dad, working with my kids, working as a youth pastor. Another one has been trying to learn what are the things that make relationship work. How can a guy who's been married, who's on his 3rd marriage, tell you anything about marriage? Maybe it was a practice makes perfect, which is trite and stupid and silly. I wouldn't claim that for marriage. Maybe it's the fact that I've been through some things, I've seen things, and I still experience things in my relationship every day that give me some kind of handle on saying, here's the things I've learned along the way. Hopefully this is my final marriage, and not because she will kill me one of these days, and so I will have no opportunity to get married again, but because I've learned enough along the way, and this one works. Marriage takes 2 people, and it takes 2 people involved and 2 people committed. And so I want to talk about a couple of things today. This is really where I was heading with all of this. I want to talk about some things that signal troubles in our relationships. And before you turn it off if you have the perfect relationship. And there's never any problems, there's never any doubts, there's never any foibles and things along the way. You've perfected it. I guess you don't have to listen so much or participate other than to say, okay, I'm there already. I'll chat in the chat room with you. I'll throw in some thoughts. But this is something I think we all have. We all run into. Like I say, I'm on my 3rd marriage. Now, we've been together about 15 years. We've been married for 12 of those years, a little over 12 of those years. And we've got 3 kids together. We love each other. We have fun together and all of that stuff. But do we still need to look at the things that can cause separateness in our relationship? You know, when you get married, isn't it because you want to be with that other person? You want to be together. You want to share your life together. And you know what? I always say you don't become one. You become one of 2. The 2 brought together, the 2 perfected in themselves, making a whole one. And it's kind of a little bit of a paradox in there. And we'll discuss some of that. But I wanted to look at the 8 behaviors that can signal relationships are in trouble. And maybe many of you have experienced these. Maybe many of you are divorced. Maybe many of you are living in relationships that lack luster, that aren't really going in. They're there, and it's you're in the rut. The wheels have hit the rut of the road, and you just travel on. And you don't intend to do anything. You don't intend separation. But what's the fun of being married to that person you wanted to be with the rest of your life, and then not enjoy the rest of your life with them? I heard somebody just today on the radio. I was listening when I was driving my kids to school, and the radio said something about they were asking people to call in with, problems of one-night stands. And, the one person said, the problem with my one-night stand is I've been married to it for the last 28 years. The other one was that my one-night stand caused me a life of misery with the same person for the rest of my life. And does that to you sound like enjoying life, being awake, being in the moment, being aware, living, to live life, to have happiness, to share your happiness? No, it doesn't. So what is it about the other person that so attracted us to them that we want to spend, oh my God, the rest of my life with this person? Yet, once you're down the road a little ways, you couldn't think of anything else but the greener pastures over there on the other side of the fence that's holding you into your marriage. Why is it that we look other ways? Why do we lose intimacy? Why do we lose closeness? All of those things. And you know what? I've been there. Obviously, I've been divorced twice. I've been there. Rainey and I almost haven't made it in this marriage at times. There were times a year and a half ago that recently, we almost were done. And we were making overtures toward each other to be absolutely done. I'm done. I'm sick and tired of this. I'm not blah, blah, blah. All of that. And so I've basically spent about 40 years working with people in one form or another through their youth that were in my youth groups, or through working with men in ministries. Lots of women I've talked to and counseled over the years. But by all means, I still do not look at myself as any kind of expert in this. We're all just feeling our way along the path. But there are certain things. There are countless reasons why sincerely committed relationships don't make it. There are some reasons, very clear indicators, that the partners can be aware of what can prevent the loss. And those destructive actions can take all kinds of forms for us. But they all can destroy. That's the common denominator. And the basic trust and closeness that are evident in a successful relationship sometimes decays and crumbles. And why do those things happen? How do we recognize those things? How do we get through those things? So, whether it's newly in love partners or those who are in a committed relationship, all intimate partners need to be on the watch if either of them begins to behave in any of the following 8 ways I'm going to present to you now. And that's what we'll spend most of our time on today. I got all kinds of other stuff up on this too. But I want you to seriously consider and listen and participate, if you're over in the chat room, in what you think are some of the ways that relationships fall apart. And the reason I'm looking at it from that negative point of view is that once we see these things, we know there's trouble in our relationships if we recognize them in our relationships. But these are the things to watch out for. These are the things to safeguard yourself on. So, number 1 is the distribution of resources change over the years. And the resources of an intimate relationship include finances, which they say, by the way, is the leading cause of divorce in couples. But it's finances, it's time, it's affection, it's availability, it's interest. So how those resources are shared by each partner is an indication of how fair and vulnerable or valuable that they feel to each other. You get that? How valuable do you feel to each other? What's the other person? What value do they place on you being next to them? When love is new, the resources that feed the relationship are freely given and willingly shared. Now, give it to me now for the love of Christ, no matter what. That's the way we are when we're first in love. Sadly, as love loses its initial gloss, that fantasy, that luster, the partners in a relationship can many times become more self-serving. They feel entitled to those resources that are given by the other person. And I'm not talking just about sex. I'm talking about other things. Time, intimacy, all of those things. They may begin to complain more that they're not getting what they feel they should, and that the changes signal less interest or care from the other person. Because I'm not getting X, Y, and Z, you're not giving A, B, and C, and that's why I feel so devalued. Feeling devalued, feeling unheard, those are some of the biggest things I've noticed in relationships. And so, and much of that comes from complacency. You ever notice that? It's not that you're out to make the other people feel less valued. It's that we forget to value them. Because we're just moving on in our course of life. We're doing our stuff. And one day you look up and you go, I'm not feeling valued. And if you're smart, you're looking and say, I'm not valuing the way I should. And so these are the kinds of statements that are clear warning signs. I've heard them. You've heard them. We've probably said them. You're never available anymore when I need you. Ooh, that's a little stinging, isn't it? You're never available when I need you. How about you spend more time now with your friends than you do with me? Remember when we first were involved with that other person? Our friends were like, you spend more time with that new boyfriend or that new girlfriend than you do with us. And now it flip-flops. You go back to the friends because you got the relationship. You got this cinched. And now you spend more time with your friends than you do with me, says your partner. You're at work much longer hours. Are you having an affair? Now, there's one thing I've noticed is usually the people who are the most insecure about the other party having an affair are generally the ones that are either having them themselves, considering having them, or on the brink of perhaps being tempted by one. That's when those accusations usually come out. But sometimes it's just the thought, where are you spending all your time? Why don't you spend time with me? And that leads to the last one. Who are you texting so much of the time? Who are all these people you talk to online? Who are your private textings? Why is your phone locked and I can't look at it? You know, that kind of thing. So we used to do so many things together. Now you're always tired. But when other things come up that you're more interested in, you suddenly have all the burst of energy you want to do those. Now, I've been there. It's like you're always tired, never want to spend time, but when there's something you want to do, there's always time to do what you want to do. There's always energy to do what you want to do. You're not tired now. You don't have a headache now. How about why are you spending money on so many things that have nothing to do with us as a couple? Guys, we can do that. Women, we can do that too. I buy books. My wife last night. I was buying books for research on things for this show. And I bought a 99-cent Kindle book. I bought a $2.99 Kindle book. I bought a $9.99 Kindle book. Now I buy the Kindle books when I do research. And if I want to keep them, I go buy them in hardback and put them on my shelf. But my wife says, what are all these charges from Amazon? I go, well, it only adds up to about $15, you know, and but still, you know, so we buy things, and sometimes I buy those. It's not for my wife. In an esoteric sense, it is, because I'm expanding my knowledge to expand my radio show, which will expand to a place where I have enough listeners to expand into advertising dollars, which helps pay the bills. You know, that's a stretch, though. But you know what I'm talking about, spending money on things. How about this? We always used to cuddle in the morning before work. Now you're out of here before I can even get woken up. Notice that? The intimacy, the physical touch diminishes. So these are the kinds of comments that reflect changes in priority that the partners once had for each other. They reveal that other interests are using up resources that were once first set aside for the relationship. Now, there can be lots of reasons that these things happen, some of them not negative. But when it's a priority, say, take that last one. When it's a priority that in the mornings you always woke up and you cuddle, you hug, you get up, have coffee together, how has that changed to suddenly there's no time for that anymore? Priorities have changed. Maybe it's not negative priorities. Maybe it's, you know, I got the new job. Now we got 3 kids. Now it's get them out the door. There's no time. So our priorities do change sometimes. But how can you make those things priorities is the question. So now that was the first one of these 8 things that I think you need to look at. Number 1, the distribution of resources change in the course of a relationship. No matter what's bringing it on, they change. So are you aware of any changes in your relationships? That, I don't do as much of this. I'd like to do that. We used to do that all the time. How come this has changed? How come money's different now? How come, you know, and so on and so forth. So some of that is we just grow comfortable with each other. We get used to how life works. But why has the other person who was once the paramount priority become a less paramount, sometimes even a subservient priority to other things? Number 2, a partner seems preoccupied. Remember when you couldn't wait to talk to your partner. I can't wait to talk to him. Remember what it was like when you were dating and you either texted till all hours of the night, spent time on the phone. Everybody at work was like, where are you going? Aren't you going out to have drinks with us tonight? No, I'm going to meet, this boyfriend, girlfriend. So remember when you couldn't wait to talk to them? They were like, man, I can't wait. And the first thing you do when you'd reconnect, when you reconnected, was to focus on each other, catch up on the time you'd been apart, like 12 hours. Both of you were a high priority to the other. You were eager to reunite before life's other demands interfered. It's like, damn it, I got to go do this other stuff now. I might skip it today just so I can spend some time with you. Remember those days? Do you still do those things? Are you still excited? I heard one guy way back in the whole Promise Keepers thing I was part of. This is 25, 30 years ago now. But I remember one guy, he was a pastor and he was talking. He says, when your wife walks in the room, guys, he says, are you in awe of your wife? And I thought, what's he mean by that? And he says, sometimes my wife will walk in the room and I go, oh, wow. And it's like, and I'm talking to guys, do you do that with your partner? Would your wife slap you upside the head with a silly smile and say, that's silly, stop doing that? Or does your wife love that? Other way around, too. Women, are you in awe of your guy? Even though his six-pack has turned into the proverbial keg? Are you still in awe of the man that's beneath the fat? So to speak. Maybe your husband hasn't turned into that. Are you still in awe of that person? Are you in awe of each other? Try that sometime. When your partner walks in the room, go, whoa, wow, I'm really in awe of you. It sounds so silly, but try it sometime. Bids for connection, availability, fulfillment, inquiry, affection, all seem to fall on deaf ears. One or both partners are preoccupied with whatever's more important at the time than being fully present for each other. Would it be running kids to sports at school, scouting, going shopping, grocery shopping, doing stuff for the house, fixing cars, sweeping the garage, shoveling the walk, mowing the grass? Are all of these things that are things, I'm purposely not talking about work because we all have to do that, but the things that become greater priorities? It can feel as if one or both partners are withholding. They're daydreaming, they're focusing on something more important to them, or just not interested in what the other one's saying or the other one's needing. And the partner experiencing the other begins to feel dismissed, erased, or not as important. How come I'm not as important to you as your dog? Honey, I know the dog was here when we got married, but you had more time for me. Now you spend all your time with the dog. Taking the dog to the vet, bathing the dog, doing this and that. I understand. Things come up. But what happens when those priorities become more important than your priority to your spouse or your partner? These are the kinds of expressions here now that kind of are clear warning signs. I walk out of the shower stark naked and you don't even look up. You know what that means. The other person's pooping on the toilet and you walk out of the shower naked and you go, hey! And they're like, hold on, I'm finishing this text. Guys, do you ever drop the phone and go, whoa, naked woman in my shower? Hello. So sometimes you don't even look up anymore. You don't even notice me. When I ask you about work, you just give me summations of curt answers like you're uninterested in sharing what's going on there. You used to consult me about your decisions and wanted my input. Do you do that? I've asked you 3 times about where you want to go out for dinner, and you don't even look up, or you just tell me to figure it out. We used to think it was fun to plan these things together. Now, I do some of that sometimes. I tell my wife, we'll go wherever you want to go. Now, she wants me to plan it. She wants me to take interest in planning it. For me, I can offer up 5 suggestions, and because my wife has very strict dietary things going on, the gluten-free stuff and all of that, we live in a small town in Wisconsin. If we want to go eat somewhere, find something with a vast non-gluten menu, we got to drive an hour to the city first. And so, many times I'm like, what's here, honey? What do you feel like? You feel like Chinese? Can't eat much there. We can order you something. Do you feel like Mexican? There's a lot of that stuff that's gluten-free if you stick to the corn type of products. We've got, the new taco bar downtown. Let's go get fish tacos. They'll put them on gluten-free for you. But there's the burger joint, which is a fantastic burger joint, but you can't eat there because unless you order a burger without the bun, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes I'm guilty of that. Maybe what my wife wants me to do is do some research and find some new places. Not going to find it in our town here, which is 6 blocks long. So, we'll have to look around. And then it's finding the sitter, driving the kids somewhere, taking the time. It's not being open-ended anymore. You got to be home. You can't stay out till 2 in the morning anymore. So anyway, we all know that. But do you invest the time for your partner? All right, let me finish this point, then we got to cut out. I shouldn't have to tell you what I need. You used to know. Now you want to send me a manual when I know you're ready, when I know that you've already had the information. We never cuddle or talk in bed anymore. We're just reading or staring into the ceiling. Don't I matter to you anymore? Please tell me what's going on. Hello? Is anyone in there? What's going on, honey? You seem to be so preoccupied, and it feels like you're shutting me out. Those are the questions. Let's come back to this when we come back after the break. 2 minutes, be right back.
When I think back on these times and the dreams we left behind, I'll be glad 'cause I was blessed to get to have you in my life. When I look back on these days, I'll look and see your face. You were right there for me. In my dreams I'll always see you soar above the sky. In my heart there'll always be a place for you for all my life. I'll keep a part of you with me, and everywhere I am there you'll be.
All right, folks, we're back from that break. Thanks for sitting there. Thanks for waiting for me. You're listening to my program, the Intrepid Radio Program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network, ODYSY1.com. And I am your host. If you weren't here for the first segment, you're here now. I'm Scotty Roberts. You can join this simulcast in video over on my YouTube channel if you'd like. There's a live chat room there with all the live Intrepids coming in and commenting on this show and other things. Great family of people over at youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. Now, I've been talking about some of the things, there's these behaviors that signal trouble within a relationship. Now, your relationship might be great. You might not have any of these problems. And it's not a problem to be focused on or concerned on. Sometimes you focus on the problems, they become bigger problems or more pronounced. But these are things that if you're in a relationship and you notice some of these things, there are some things that you can do about them. Let's see if we can get through them. We've covered the first two. The first one was the distribution of resources that change over the course of your relationship, no matter how long or short it is. And a partner seems preoccupied. If there's preoccupation, that could mean that there is some trouble brewing in the intimacy in your relationship. Number 3, let's go there. A partner quickly shuts down communication. You found that? Have you run into that with your partner? When love is new, most couples are deeply interested in each other's thoughts, their feelings, their needs. Guys will sit their chins on their hands, on their elbows, just can't wait to bask in all the information you give them about your life and all your stuff and your day. Is it that way 3 years down the road? 4, 5, 6, 7? Have you noticed, does your husband sit in awe of you? Does your partner, male or female, sit in awe of the words, waiting and can't wait to hear from you? Can't wait to be interested in what you're doing and what you're talking about. So attempts at communication are met with focus, presence, and patience. And each new idea is met with curiosity and sustained interest. Does that happen in your relationship? Or does that seem corny to some people? You don't need to do that. We all know we got stuff that we got going on. Well, is that a sign that there might be trouble or lack of intimacy in the relationship if you're not doing those things? As intimate partners lose interest in one another, or they become too able to predict answers and explanations, they often resort to responses that put a cap on the attempt to prolong the interaction. Capping, folks, is a technique. It's a conscious or unconscious one that effectively stops the other partner from continuing to make an effort to connect. Just imagine any one of these following responses to your reaching out to share something with your partner about your day, your life, your interests, your projects. Would they make you want to continue sharing what you were thinking or feeling? How about this? That's really kind of a stupid idea. Would that make you want to keep talking? Sometimes it'll make us want to justify it. But what if you're the person that's saying that? Oh, that's kind of a dumb idea. Oh, no, not really. That's ridiculous. I don't want to hear that. How about this? You're always complaining about your mom's behaviors. What are you doing to make her act that way? Or, friends or family or other people. Wow, what are you bringing to the table that's making people treat you that way? Boom, cap, done. We used to call it, you want to stretch out like a hand your partner so there's... You don't want to make them like this. You don't want them resisting and closing off. So these are ways to close them off, to cap everything off. How about you're making a mountain out of a molehill? It's nothing. It's your anxieties. Why do you let this stuff even bother you? Just let it go. Be like me. These are guys. You notice a lot of these are a lot of guy responses to things. Women do these too. But guys, listen to the way you talk to your partner. and ask yourself, do I say these kinds of things? I didn't realize it was putting a cap on intimate conversation with my wife. Just let it go, honey. Water off a duck's back. Come on, lighten up. I can bring those up because I've said them all. I've heard you complain about these things over and over and over and over and over again ad nauseum. Get real about what to expect, and you're not going to have these problems, honey. Cap stops the talk. Sometimes she just needs to share. Sometimes guys are like, I just need to share what I'm thinking. I want you to hear this. If you don't want to hear it, I'll stop telling you. How about this one? You did what? Or, now, we never really say it this way. This is more in our actions sometimes. Sometimes guys say this, women say this. This conversation is really boring. Now, my wife has said to me before, I'll start talking about something. Yeah, I've heard about that before. And I'm like, oh, okay. Or, could you just answer the question? I don't need your editorializing. All of these are the things that take place between couples. So, how about this one? Hey, sweetie, I'm on radio here recording. Could you take that out of the room, please? Thank you. All right. Sorry about that, folks. That was my little girl on the phone with her grandma or somebody on a video chat. Now it sat down beneath my feet. So I had to usher her out quickly. Let's see. How about, let me tell you how you should have handled this. You know what you should have done, honey? Here, let me tell you how to deal with this. Sometimes it's not what our partner's looking for. They want to tell you how they dealt with it and what it's doing to them. They'll ask you if they want your input. How about, I think you're way too reactive here. Why don't you give the other guy a break? You know, you are like that sometimes. You do those kinds of things. Maybe you need to shut up and let the other guy talk. Cap. If you just learned to listen, maybe people would open up more to you. Those are the kinds of things. Those are the things. That's called capping a relationship, capping communication. So how is your communication with your partner? Does your partner shut you down? Do you shut your partner down? That's a trouble sign in a relationship. Number 4. 4 of 8. Partners become more negatively reactive. Passion and enthusiasm are wonderful characteristics, and those are things that enhance relationships. They stem from a person's love, their interest, their participation in things of life that make them alive and excited. You're sharing things together. You're together. You're a team. You're a couple. You're all these things. So passion and enthusiasm. However, they share an emotional kinship with a dark twin. When levels of intensity are intertwined with negative reactivity, the partner on the other end is likely to be squelched, beaten down. Not physically, but emotionally, mentally, intellectually beaten down. Negative reaction or negative reactivity is a set of behaviors that curtly and dismissively snap at the recipient. They signal irritability, impatience, rejection, and being burdened by the bid for connection. You got the bid for connection. I have to bid with you, to you for your time, for your positiveness, for your empathy, for your touch, for your attention. Now, whether the partners who are snapping are preoccupied with personal issues or something they don't like about the other partners, they're giving a clear message that they don't want the interaction to be happening at all. Have you ever done that to your partner? Have you experienced that? I know I've done that. I've been sitting here and I'm so preoccupied with something else. I have a timeline looming over my head. I got stuff going on, and my wife wants to come in and talk about this guy that cut her off in the parking lot. And I'm like, yeah, well, maybe just go find another spot next time. I brush it off. Or, honey, darling, love of my life, can we talk about this at another time? And yeah, sometimes there's appropriate times. Sometimes you can just say, hey, honey, give me a couple of minutes. I got to finish this. I'll come out and see you in a minute. Let me get this done. This is important. I got to finish it. Or how often do you push what's important aside to make them feel more important than your important stuff? People who communicate well to one another let each other know when they're unavailable for contact. They share when they'll be able to be more available. They also want to know how important their partner's need is at the moment and take that into consideration. There are times I'll say to Rainey, hold on, wait, I'm in the middle of something. You want to talk about this? Do you need to talk about this now? If you do, I'll shut this off, or can you wait a second, like I previously said. Without that honesty, it's up to the other party to figure out when it's okay to connect or to risk the curt and dismissive reaction. These are typical comments that should be heeded as warning signs. Listen to these. Warning signs. Why do you always pick the wrong time to talk to me? Why do you always come in here when I'm writing something or doing something? I can't listen to your crap right now. Now that's pretty nasty to say that to somebody. There are various ways of saying that with just as deep impact. I've heard this all before. Can we talk about this another time? I don't need to hear that right now. That's as dismissive as calling it crap. What makes you think that you can bother me whenever it's convenient for you? Why don't you just waltz in here whenever you think it's good to talk? You don't care what I'm doing. I can be talking to somebody on the phone. I can be typing. I can be doing something. You think it's a great time to interrupt me. Boom. You do that? Or has it been done to you? Come and talk to me when you have something more important to say. I'd get whapped upside the head for saying something like that. And probably we call a lot of these things putting a brick in the wall of separation between us. Are you building a wall of separation? Not all at once. You just don't call in and go, drop that wall right here, please, thump, and it's there. Many times it's a wall that we're picking up the bricks, we're putting on the mortar, setting it in place, tap, 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 making sure it's level. And one by one, we keep adding those bricks to that wall, and it gets higher and higher and higher. And pretty soon you're closed off. You're so incredibly needy. Can't you talk to somebody else about this for a change? Can you call your mom and talk to her about this? This is girl stuff. I don't talk girl stuff. Go call your sister. Go call your mom. What if your wife needs you to talk to you about that? Flip that around. This is guy stuff. Go talk to your guy friends. They'll get you on this. You're wearing out your welcome with your constant demands. I told you I don't want to talk about it right now. Now, we don't always say it in those words, but those are the emotions, the actions that we put across to our partners. Just come and talk to me when you got something really cool or important to talk about, because right now I don't want to listen to what you have to say, and I have other important things to do. You're wearing out your welcome. That's kind of the message we put across. All right? Number 5, a partner becomes secretive. Do you have that going on in your relationship? Partner's secretive. They're texting. They're like, oh, hey, hi. Into the pocket it goes. Or whatever it might be. Transparency. Authenticity. Honesty. Are those 3 words that you can say epitomize your relationship? Transparency, authenticity, honesty. Are those the cornerstones of your relationship and the way you communicate. Those are crucial behaviors that are prominent in every good relationship I've ever seen. The people who I look at and I go, wow, I'd love to have a relationship like they have. I'll bet you they're transparent, they're honest, and they're authentic. They're the hallmarks of open communication that help couples know each other deeply, along with what to expect, how to handle it. Secrecy is the absolute opposite of those three things. It's the intent to withhold information from a partner to avoid loss of options if he or she were to know. It's very different from privacy. Privacy and secrecy, folks, in a relationship are two different things. Everybody deserves their privacy, even in the most trustworthy, authentic, honest relationships out there. There are privacy issues that need to be respected. Secrecy is a very different thing. Everybody's entitled to privacy. Privacy doesn't hurt a relationship's trust. It's simply the right to keep thoughts and feelings to oneself that need to be resolved from within that person and are not potentially dangerous to the other party. That's privacy. When intimate partners keep secrets from each other, they behave in ways that feel contradictory to what they say, what they're feeling, what they're doing. When questioned, they're typically defensive, evasive, or answer questions in nonsensical or irrational ways, leading the other partners to feel more insecure, more unable to understand the difference between what they see and how that is, different from what they hear. Sometimes there's passive aggression that comes in. Passive aggressive behavior. This can have the same effect. Passive aggressive partner promises more than he or she can deliver and then avoids all confrontation when those promises aren't kept. Sadly, all behaviors that seem or feel secretive, typically ringing bells of alarm to the partners on the other end of them, their beseeching inquiries, never answered with full transparency, only serve to make their insecurities more prominent. Or, you know what? To start digging the hole of insecurity in an otherwise decent relationship. What's causing the secrecy? And if there is secrecy, why are you doing it? Sometimes that can lead a partner to wonder what's going on. The partners feeling that they're being excluded from the truth often express these kinds of words. You're coming home later and later at night from the office. Something going on I don't know about? You keeping something from me? And, maybe that passive-aggressive might be, I don't know, something like, maybe it's not so passive. It's, why are you always picking on me? Can't I have a little time to myself? Can't I do something? Is that privacy or is that secrecy? It's something being covered up. You used to lie in bed and talk in the mornings. Now you're up, showered, and out before I even wake up. Where are you going? Why do you have to get out so soon? You're going out with your girlfriends for dinner again? Last week you didn't come home till 11. Ooh, 11. And you were staggering. Did someone else bring you home? Or, those are the things where, you're meeting with your friend again? Boy, you guys are seeing an awful lot of each other. Is something else going on you're hiding from me? So, there's several withdrawals of cash from our bank account last month. What did you use that for? What's that all about? Hey, your best friend called here last night looking for you. You told me you were out to dinner with him. Where were you really? Somebody's texting you in the middle of the night. When I reach for your phone, you grab it away from me and tell me it's just a nuisance call. 3 times this week. Come on, who is it? How about you changed your password on your iPad without telling me? That's never happened before. Are you hiding something? Now, these are the insecurities that secrecy builds. You know, I used to be, I didn't like my wife digging through my stuff. But sometimes it was because I would have conversations with people about things I didn't want her to know about. Sometimes it wasn't pretty. I'm not talking about affairs and things like that. I'm talking about sometimes when we were on not doing so well, my wife and I would bitch and piss and moan to my friends about something that was bugging me. We do it in texts, and so I didn't want her reading that stuff. So I've hidden that. I know what secrecy is. I know how that stuff happens. Have you ever done that? Have you ever experienced that? That's different than privacy. Privacy is, you know, I've got things that I write. You can call it journaling if you want. Dear Diary. You can call it whatever you want. There are things that are private things that you don't want anybody to know. You don't even want your wife to know or your husband to know. It's your private things in life. Now, those are things that ultimately get shared anyway, but privacy is different than secrecy. Are you hiding things from your partner? If you are, that's causing problems. Number 6, the relationship feels stagnant, stale, worn out, maybe even a little moldy around the edges. Discovery is the most important contributor to continued excitement. Did you know that? Discovery is the most important factor to continued excitement, continued interest, continued desire in every intimate relationship. You can counter this predictably with boredom. You can counter it. This is how you how am I trying to say this? This is how I counter predictability and boredom. Is you try to find new ways to be exciting and interesting. And you know, the other day I went out and after my shower, and I had on my towel wrapped around my waist, and I stood in front of my wife watching TV, and I said, "Do you want to see my new exotic dance?" And she goes, "Ooh, baby," she says sarcastically. So, but, you know, it's different than that. That's trite and fun and funny. But do you find ways to make things exciting in your relationship? You know, there's, in new relationships, the continuous flow of new information keeps both partners engaged, interested, and interesting. As our relationships go on, there's nothing new to learn. I know every nook and cranny. And so all too often, the partners in committed relationships learn that all they know about one another, they learn all they know about one another, and they stop seeking, or they stop delivering. New adventures with each other die by the wayside. It's as if they once ran a great race together and now have become the pit stops, where they simply refuel and give the more exciting parts of themselves outside the relationship. So sometimes couples challenge the stagnation of boring predictability by seeking new experiences together outside the relationship. Alternatively, one or both may have interests outside the relationship and bring those discoveries back home to share. I'm not talking just about sexual things, folks. About other things. When most partners begin to feel bored with each other or the relationship, they typically first request to do more interesting things together. If you're bored, you want to do other things. For my wife and I, my wife's been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. I want to get her out in the world. I want to go traveling with my wife. I want to do things. Let's go discover some things together. That's why we do the paranormal investigating together. We discover new things. We have exciting times together with that. So if those requests are ignored or they're put off, they're usually going to try harder to give or get more stimulation and discovery from the other for a while. If those entreaties are still ignored, the relationship's going to begin to stagnate, and the partner who stays bored might seek activity elsewhere. Get that? What are you doing to actively, and I've heard couples say, "I don't have time for excitement." Well, you better make time for excitement. That's the thing. You can't stop making exciting times for each other. Sip of coffee. Pardon me for that break. Now, here's some examples of this. Honey, we never do anything really fun anymore. We don't go camping. That's one thing we haven't done in our relationship, my wife and I. We don't go camping with the kids. We want to remedy that. We want to go places and do things. We took a little mini vacation last summer when we drove down to South Carolina to my daughter's wedding. And we went and saw the historical stuff in Charleston. We went and took the kids to the ocean. We went and did some things. We saw things all along the drive, all the way back up to Wisconsin. It was wonderful. It was new experiences together. You seem so into yourself these days, you hardly share your life with me like you used to. What's going on with you? We seem so routine, so mechanical in our sex life. Are you feeling the same way? Do you want something different? Don't you want this anymore? Ain't this exciting anymore? What can you do that's exciting? You want to do something different. I've asked you many times to not just have the same conversation every time we go out to dinner. We need to do more stimulating things with each other, don't you think? Can we please set aside some time and plans for a real vacation? Just the two of us. Where we're really in a rut, and I don't like it. I hate to say this, babe, but I'm already bored with our relationship. I'm not blaming either of us, but I really need something different to look forward to. Same old is just not cutting it anymore for me. That's a dick, by the way, who would say something like that to his wife. You sure you're the hit of the party when we're out with the other people? No one would want to date the guy I live with. Are you sure you are the hit of the party? Nobody would want to date the guy I live with. So let's move on. We got two more things, and we're almost out of time here. There's more fighting takes place, and you've stopped touching as much. Those are the two other ones. And I think we're just about out of time here. So I just want to say, there's more fighting, there are successful ways to have conflict. There are rules to fair fighting. I don't have them here. I'll try to post them, maybe talk about them on another time. There's 10 rules to fair fighting in a relationship. Do you abide by fair fighting? And as far as you've stopped touching as much, not all people want the same amount of physical contact, whatever's manifest. I'm a walking whatever. It's not going to take much to get me going. My wife sometimes is so busy and so tired, her needs have changed. And so we've got to try to, how do you get over that? Maybe that's a whole topic all on itself. Those kinds of things. Husbands and wives experiencing different levels of intensity, so to speak. So there are many ways that couples can see darkness looming early enough to turn those behaviors around before they destroy hope and faith in the relationship. The crucial issue for couples is to identify these things, to talk about them before they've lost the motivation to want to. So there you go, folks. That's all I got for today. We got to get out of here because we're out of time. 23-hour break. See you tomorrow. Hang tight.